This courtroom footage shows a judge threatening a lawyer before the two leave to fight.
If you want to fight, let's go out back and I'll just beat your ass.
So how was this just allowed to happen? And what were the consequences? The incident occurred on the 2nd of June 2014 in Brevard County Courtroom, Florida. Of course it was Florida. Judge John Murphy is presiding. Also present is Assistant Public Defender Andrew Weinstock. The two seem to have a tense relationship for whatever reason, and this devolves into verbal sparring when Weinstock is representing clients.
You want to set it for trial?
You can set it for trial if you want to set it for trial instead. Sure.
Well,
I'm not waiving. That's if the question is, am I waiving? The answer is, I'm not waiving.
Just say it.
Okay, I'm not waiving.
I don't care.
I don't care either.
I just needed to set it for a date.
This comes to a head when Weinstock's client, Mr. Runkles, steps forward. He is charged with assault and resisting arrest. In the United States, the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution grants those charged with a crime the right to a speedy trial, meaning you'll be given a trial within 90 days for a misdemeanor or 175 days for a felony. If you don't want a speedy trial, you can waive your right to one, and this allows your attorneys more time to build a defense. For this reason, a lot of people will find it preferable to waive the right to speedy trial. A court may also find this preferable if they're badly congested during that time, although they cannot use this as a reason to extend the speedy trial period. Crowded schedule or no, they must honour the speedy trial period, outside of exceptional circumstances. In this case, Mr. Runkles prefers to get his trial over with as quickly as possible, so Weinstock refuses to waive his client's right to a speedy trial. Then, this happens.
Alright, what do you want to do?
What do you want to do? I'm not waiving. If you want to set it for trial, set it for trial.
Alright.
If you want to set it for docket sounding, set it for docket sounding. I'm not waiving in any case. This is an emergency
if I
created by
had a
the
rock,
state.
I would throw it at you right now.
Stop
pissing me off. Just sit down. I'll take care of it. I don't need your help.
No,
sit down.
What? I'm the public defender. I have a right to be here, and I have a right to stand and represent
sit
my
down.
clients.
If you want to fight, let's go out back and I'll just beat your ass.
The two leave the courtroom and head out into the hallway. Sadly, there is no camera monitoring this, so there is no footage of what's happening, but there's obviously some sort of physical altercation outside. The people still present are a mixture of amused and confused. Some are laughing. I have to commend their composure during this incident. Two officers of the court just left to have a fight. They're literally witnessing a complete breakdown of the law here. In my opinion, that's carte blanche to go fucking crazy. Get up and start throwing those chairs around, take your clothes off, start a fire. The second that judge said he'd whoop the lawyer's ass, a full-scale riot should have erupted in this room. I mean, who'd blame you? Authority has just given way to base violence. It's total societal collapse at that point. Go wild. Mr. Runkles is the biggest goof of all here. He's charged with assault and the judge goes to beat the shit out of his defence and all he does is stand there. I wouldn't tolerate that. How are you going to watch the judge beat up your lawyer and still accept that it's you who's being charged with assault? Fuck that. At the very least you might as well go out and defend the fella. Who knows, maybe that was the judge's plan all along. He was just showing the guy the error of his ways. Like, this is what would happen if everyone went around committing assault, and now you have no defence. This theory is given credence when deputies break up the fight, and Judge Murphy comes back to the courtroom, but not Weinstock.
I will catch my breath eventually. Man, I'm an old man.
All right. And would you believe it, court just continues as if nothing happened. Yes, that's right, the judge continues prompting Mr. Runkles even though his defence is no longer present. I mean, it's not a trial, but can you imagine if every judge could do that? Just beat up the lawyers when they're annoying you or getting in the way and just continue without them. Despite what he's just witnessed, Mr. Runkles still opts for speedy trial. Luckily for him, Judge Murphy doesn't whoop his ass for this. 7 cases are called where the defendants were not represented by any attorney. So what really happened outside? Weinstock alleges he left the room with the understanding that they would be taking their argument out of the courtroom. However, upon leaving the room, Judge Murphy grabbed a hold of him and started punching him in the face. Judge Murphy claimed that when they got outside, it was actually Weinstock who was charging at him, and that Weinstock struck him, not the other way around. Now, I'm not gonna say that he's a liar, but in my professional opinion, it seems likely that the fella who threatens to go outside and whoop some ass, the fella who can be heard screaming, "You wanna fuck with me?" the fella who returned by himself with no sign of the other combatant, I'm going to say that was probably the guy throwing the punches. Just my professional opinion, but my profession is YouTube, so maybe that's not worth much. A disciplinary panel made Judge Murphy take a 4-week paid leave of absence, undergo anger management counselling and issue an apology, after which he returned to the bench. The elected public defender, Weinstock's boss, welcomed Judge Murphy's return to the bench, angering Weinstock, who thought he shouldn't be allowed back at all. In response, Weinstock quit his job. He wasn't the only one unhappy, and the Florida Supreme Court sought Murphy's permanent suspension, noting that the incident had become a national spectacle and was an embarrassment to Florida's judicial system. Yeah, good one. Judge Murphy maintained he did not strike Weinstock, nor did he attempt to strike him, and the incident was the regrettable product of a particularly stressful time for Murphy, in which he was suffering from PTSD from his deployment in Afghanistan. Jesus, this story couldn't get any more American, could it? You don't get representation in court because the judge beat up your lawyer, and the judge beat up your lawyer because he was suffering the effects of fighting in a 20-year war the government was waging on the other side of the world. Well, at least the war was a success, right? Oh dearie me. Judge John Murphy was permanently removed from the bench, meaning both men ended up losing a job from the incident. But that's what you should probably expect getting into a fight in a courtroom. No matter who wins, you're both going to lose. It's pretty funny that such a thing happened, but when you actually examine it, it's kind of sad. Like, it's symptomatic of a system that's fucked up on many levels and ultimately fails the average person. And this isn't just a filthy European throwing around his worthless opinions of America. I'm not trying to be smarmy or condescending, for once. The system often fails the people in every part of the world. This story just happens to take place in America. I know it wasn't you, the viewer, my friend, who made your system fucked up, just like it wasn't me who made our system fucked up. Well, most of it wasn't me. If you're interested in a system that never fails its people, consider subscribing to my channel, because I put out a new video every week, and that means I have a huge backlog you can binge on as well. I've also added some more custom emojis to the channel membership, so buy a membership if you want to use these emotes in the comments. It's the only true way for Cookser fans to communicate. Otherwise, I'd prefer if you just be quiet. So until next time, that was a joke by the way, I was kidding. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see ya.
If you were wanting to waive Speedy, we would set it for July 15th.
I would like to get it done as fast as possible.
That doesn't help me. You want to set it for trial and see what happens?
Yes.
All right. Speedy.